Hi everyone, today we have a new video review, and as you can see, this time we are going to talk about fresh release from ICM, and it's a new toolkit. It's a 148 scale B-26B Marauder, and it's a World War II American bomber as it's written here. And I think this aircraft might be familiar to most of you, especially the fans of US aviation. And now we have a quite fresh kit in popular 148 scale. It should be big, and that's why it's interesting to take a closer look at what is actually included inside. And the kit number is 48320, so the box size is quite impressive. Here you can see comparison with my hand, but I would say it's a typical size for large scale releases from ICM. So box art looks good. There should be also a small surprise in the box as far as I remember, but we will talk about that later. Here you can see also some information about the kit, and maybe I'll take a look as well. And it's written that there are 363 parts and wingspan will be 454 millimeters, which is almost half a meter wingspan. So consider this when you'll be trying to build this aircraft. And on the opposite side, you can see 3 marking options which are included into this kit. They're quite colorful, so you'll definitely find something suitable for your project. And now I'm going to cut through the plastic seals on the top of the box, because this is a typical feature for ICM kits. In the meantime, I can also remind you that ICM released several other nice models in 148 scale, and you can find them all on our YouTube channel. So the recent, I would say, quality improvement from ICM is quite noticeable, so that's why I recommend to take a closer look at their novelties in terms of helicopters and the armored vehicles as well. As for the box structure, it's classic for ICM. As you can see, the color printed top cover, and then we have sturdy white cardboard box. And if I open it, here is what we have inside. I would say the packaging is more on the tight side, so definitely ask your seller to pack it carefully. But as you can see, to me it arrived intact, nothing is damaged, so quite a good sturdy box. Parts are separated into 2 resealable plastic bags, which is also good, because usually ICM was trying to fill in everything into one bag, and it was quite tight thing, but now we have plenty of space. And I think that's a smart decision for such large model. And now I'm going to open the first plastic bag and then open another plastic bag, because there is a clear sprue which is packed into a separate plastic bag. And here we have quite an interesting, I would say, improvement over the previous releases, because as you can see, the parts are packed into this special foam, which should preserve the clear parts from the possible scratches and damage. And that's done because also here we get the one-piece canopy parts. So if I zoom in, you will see what I'm talking about, and I think they look really great. So out of the box you get a nice molding quality. You don't have to modify anything, it's just a matter of masking them. And the question will be whether we get the masking templates here, because ICM includes this thing into some of their kits, and if it's not included here, you have to cut your own masks or maybe get some aftermarket kit. And I would rather recommend to get some aftermarket set, because it will speed up the assembly process and painting process as well. So here we see the first gray plastic sprue, and as you can see, it is dedicated to the wing parts. And what is quite interesting here is that we have the wing mechanization separate, so this is a really great thing. Engine gondolas should be assembled out of 2 halves. We have also I think these are elevators probably, or maybe the ailerons. No, this should be elevators, because they are assembled out of 2 halves. We have guiding pins inside, so it should be quite easy to work with this thing. And attachment points are quite thin, so it will be also easy to separate these parts. Next we continue with another plastic sprue. So here we have these are tail wings, I think. And as you can see, we also get some large panels for the internal features. I wonder where they will be used, but overall the quality of the parts and details on them is really nice. So if I zoom in and we take a closer look at this part, for example, you can see there is a lot of stuff going on, which is actually pre-molded out of the box, and you don't have to modify anything. By the way, these are, I think, the flaps, and here we can see the ailerons probably. And this is another central spar together with the bulkhead. And if I flip over this plastic sprue without touching the camera probably, so here you can see that we have also guiding pins in all of these parts or elements which are divided into two halves. And I think it's quite important in this size because even the tail wing, as you can see, almost as big as my palm. Okay, next we have another plastic sprue, because we need to get also the top wing halves. So here they are, and one of them is molded together with the pitot tube, and also these position lights are pre-molded, which is quite interesting design. I will zoom in closer so that you can see what I'm talking about here, and I can see that bulb is even pre-molded here, which is really cool. In 1/48 scale it should be noticeable thing. And as for the external features, you can notice that we have recessed panel lines. We have also nice imitation of the fabric surface tensioned over the inner structure, so this is also a great thing which can be brought out with the pre-shading done on those parts. And here you can see that again we have the guiding elements, so there is nothing to worry about. Even though the parts are quite large, you have the smart design which will be actually easy to work with. Next, I'm opening one more plastic bag, so just give me a second. I will try to take out these frames, move this one out of the table, and we will start with the sprue which is marked with the letter F. So here we have more of the mix of various parts. You can notice that we have some fuselage panels, we also have some wing mechanization again, we have some cockpit parts, for example the dashboard here, landing gear parts as well, and everything looks fine. So for the landing gear maybe it's worth adding some brake lines, because in this scale I think it will be noticeable thing, especially on this type of aircraft. But note that some complex shaped parts are molded as a single piece elements, which is also showing what you can achieve with the modern technologies. And that's why I'm saying I'm always surprised when some manufacturers try to say that it's a really complex thing to do, and then other brands are actually doing it without any complaints. So here you can see the perfect example of this. And then on the next sprue we can see a lot of things for the inner features. So if I zoom in, you can see what I'm talking about. And those parts are quite tiny even in 1/48 scale. Here you can see comparison with my fingertip, and maybe it's worth zooming in and taking a closer look at those corners. And so I guess biggest share of those will go inside the aircraft. So it might be worth thinking how to expose it. Maybe it will be visible through the canopy, because amount of the clear sections on this aircraft is quite impressive, but still maybe you can also open some doors. We haven't seen the fuselage, so I cannot say it for sure. But what I can say for sure is that we get both engines included in, I would say, somewhat typical ICM fashion. They decided not to skip on this, so we do not get some simple replacement because only the front of the engine will be visible. As you can see, it's a nicely detailed engine or cylinders blocks. And maybe it's worth adding some wiring on those, because it will be still visible through the front cowling section, and you can actually not glue one of the sections so that you can remove it and depict one of the engines without the cowling. But of course the extra point should go for this one piece cowling section, so basically you won't have any ugly gaps and seams in this area. But at the same time we also get the landing gear wheels, which should be assembled out of two halves, which is not exactly a cool thing to have. But I think modelers who will be building such thing, they will just get the resin upgrade and replace these wheels. But for out-of-the-box build, I think it's more than enough. And I do not see any features on the tire walls, which is rather surprising. Next, we have the last gray plastic sprue. So here we have the fuselage halves, as you can guess. So note that the rear tail hatches are molded separately. Here we have also some of the hatches separate, and of course the canopy area is open. Here inside you'll find some inner structure, which is really cool because, as you can see, those elements which can be visible through the openings, they are nicely detailed with the inner structure. So that's also a useful thing, and it shows that the design was well thought through, and we we don't get some weird design cues which are basically useless. And of course we also get the guiding elements. So for the guiding elements I'm really thankful, because again those fuselages, fuselage halves, not fuselages, but they are almost half a meter long as well, so that's why it's important to get this out of the box. Next we have huge decal sheet, and it's not written where it is coming from, but I guess it's probably cartograph or something else. So as you can see, the printing quality is really nice, and I do not see that many stencils, to be honest. I also do not see the seat belts, so for the seat belts you will have to go to aftermarket, but otherwise you get all of the necessary elements. Maybe you can try to replicate some of the lines with the masks, maybe this triangle as well, but it's already your decision because it will involve some additional, let's say, activity. And as for the assembly manual, this one is printed as a large color brochure. Here we have the first page dedicated to the history note and the paints chart, and then we continue with the parts map. So ICM usually shows which parts are unused, and why I'm saying this, because only here you can see the red color that those parts should not be touched, and it means that you should use almost all of the parts on the frames. Assembly process starts by drilling some holes on the fuselage, so I guess those spots should be marked, but let me check because I'm not sure I have seen it, so just a moment. Yes, they are marked, and just to prove it, here you can see one of the fuselage halves, you can see these points, so it's just a matter of drilling them and then using them for installation points. But next we continue here with the separate hatches. You can see also we can open the bomb bay doors, and you can also assemble the closed one. So then you start working on the cockpit and also on the bomb bay door, or just the bomb bay, not the door. Next we continue with assembly of those internal elements together in the fuselage, and then we assemble the fuselage halves together. As you can see, you should drill the holes on the opposite half as well. Here we also should not forget about the metal weight, and it should be 50 grams, so it's quite a heavy counterbalance in order to avoid the tail seater. Next we have the tail surfaces, also some of the armament, and also here you can see some of the things being used for the marking option number 3. Then we continue with some clear parts, and we start working on the main wing. I can see that we have, as we discussed, the separate ailerons and flaps, but there is no mention that you can drop them, so you will have to position them somehow differently on your own, let's say, design and references. Then we assemble the engine. Of course you will have to repeat it twice because we get the twin engine aircraft here. Engine gondolas are going next. And then we install everything on the wings, and wings are getting in place on those large parts, so I would say it's a well thought design, and it should be enough to support both sides of the wings. Next we continue with the nose landing gear doors and landing gear legs as well. Here we install also landing gear wheels and the propellers, and we have the masking guide here, which is really cool because, as I said, there are a lot of clear areas on this aircraft, so it's quite important to get this at least as the template. And then we continue with the first two marking options. As you can see, now this one is in a classic green color. Here we have the full silver aircraft, and another one but with the kind of shark mouth or maybe eagle mouth, but it's also quite an interesting thing to replicate. So overall we get a quite cool release in 1/48 scale. Of course it's huge and might be not for everyone, but I think those fans who prefer such sizing, they will be really happy to see this thing out in the shops, and you can get it in Modelimex, for example. And of course I will be happy to hear your opinion, so do not forget to write it here in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye.